Hello and welcome to the catch-up for August 2024, live from the Mull Cafe in St Kilda. I'm Paul from Give Toke.
And I'm Christina from AusCannaReviews.
And we come together each month to talk about cannabis in Australia and around the world. First of all, we want to say a big thank you to the people that came out to the show. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you for coming out and supporting it. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Very nice, very nice. The real listeners who will be listening to this show in the recording, of course, and our friends at Mull Cafe and Relief for having us here in sunny St Kilda on a rare, lovely day in Melbourne. So, Christina, it's nice to be with you.
It's fabulous to be here with you too. We're going to stick to basically the same format that we normally have, but we're going to do the news, and then we have a special guest who is coming on, and then we have a quiz for the audience. Hopefully we've got some smart people in the audience that'll be able to answer some of these tricky questions. And then, of course, we will wrap up with some hot tokes.
And so there's also some special guest sounds from the coffee machine at Mull Cafe and also some of the interesting characters in St Kilda. So we'll have extra special guests in an ambient sense. But first, we're going to kick it off with news and current affairs. And our first story is Perth schoolboy charged after allegedly making and selling cannabis-laced gummy lollies. So last week, Western Australian Police issued an alert asking any students from Western suburb schools who have purchased or been given gummy lollies in recent days to not ingest them. Detectives confirmed they have charged a 16-year-old boy with 9 drug charges after searching his home and finding gummies they believed to be laced with THC. Thoughts? Was this you? Was this your kid?
So here you go. Ready. I got a great story. High school. My freshman year, so that's grade 9. Really good friend of mine, Jose Bravo. His older brother, Mario, was a senior, so grade 12. Mario was the king of brownies. And in Texas, we have something called Senior Skip Day, where all the seniors, one day a year, they skip school. And so the seniors skipped school, and somehow the valedictorian got some magic brownies. But the valedictorian did not know they were magic brownies.
Rookie.
And, well, an ambulance was called and somebody had to go to the hospital and Mario got expelled.
Are you going to get in trouble for naming these people?
No, well, look, this was 1994. So the moral of the story here is, he got expelled. And I remember neighborhood boy, right? And this is 1994. We did not have the internet, but let me tell you, everybody knew Mario Bravo. His life was ruined. My mom was like, he's never going to amount to anything. Da, 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 da. Well, guess what, kids, if you're listening, Mario Bravo sits on the San Antonio Council. He's a councilman.
What a legend.
So don't let anybody tell you that your life is shot. You can still get into politics.
Oh, dear. That's really good. Good on you, Mario.
So hats off
I'd
to
vote
Mario.
for this guy. I'm just stoked that this is a story. Honestly, I don't want teenagers, necessarily consuming pot without some thoughtfulness behind it. But I imagine if we gave the same amount of attention to teenage drinking, we'd be pretty alarmed. So obviously, we don't want teens consuming THC irresponsibly. But I think there's plenty of other things we could be worried about. So we'll move on to our next story, which is Cannabis website delivering drugs thriving in Queensland. So coming from 9 News on August 14th, a cannabis website delivering drugs to people's driveways is thriving in Queensland, right under the nose of the police. Dealers brazenly boast about their products to buyers who rate them and even give them the reviews. Christina, sounds pretty cool to me.
This is nothing new. I don't know why it was a news story. I think it was Dial a Dealer back in the day is what we called it. Like back in the day, you used to be able to call. There was like the sus number that was written on the bathroom stall that you just called and Buddy would just show up. But now, like I said, I can't think of what the app is, but I'll tell you right now, I got a couple of friends that in Brisbane use it, and they, you rate and I don't know. It's nothing new.
Well, why does this stuff happen? It's because people want cannabis. Like if we had a regulated legal adult use market, there would be less space for this. And we see that in developing recreational markets, that it takes some time, but illicit dealers do start to struggle. Price of cannabis goes down, access improves, teenagers can't get it as much. So this website exists because people want weed. And while there's great recourse for medical cannabis, these guys can deliver the same day.
Absolutely. And I think that's what it all ultimately boils down to is an access thing, right? You're right. Some of these guys you can call at 10 o'clock and they're on your doorstep at 10:30.
Yeah, they've got menus, they've got all this kind of stuff. So yeah, the dealer days have changed a lot, and I can see why people are going for it. Like I would prefer people had a safe legal access to cannabis, but this is filling a need in the market that needs to exist. You know, I want adult use. If you didn't get the message.
Casual hint.
Our next story comes from Hetty NJ on August 14th. New Jersey says Jersey City cops can smoke weed legally. So the New Jersey Civil Service Commission has decided to reinstate Jersey City cops who wanted to smoke weed but got fired for doing so. They are now owed back pay after being unjustly fired. I love these stories because when I lived in Canada, the Vancouver Police Department are allowed to consume cannabis in the same way anyone would safely consume alcohol. They're just expected for it to not run into their next day, and they're treated like adults about it. Now, if you're from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, you can't. So, you know, you have to be a Vancouver police officer. But these stories are great because even the cops want it normalized. You know, it's not just us stoners. It's not just those people in the industry who want to normalize and destigmatize. It's also police officers. So I'm glad to hear that some of them are on our side.
Me too. I think more cases like these will definitely start setting precedents, and then as the precedents get set, it becomes more normal, and then we don't even have these discussions anymore because it's just accepted.
Exactly. Our next story, Australian farmers hope to capitalise on relaxed cannabis laws in Europe. So Europe is one of the biggest medicinal cannabis markets, and Australian companies, including ANTG and Little Green Pharma, already export to Europe, and many farmers are capitalising on the upward trend, signing multi-million-dollar export deals. So this one's from the ABC News. Thoughts on our weed going elsewhere, Christina?
I'm all for it. This is a reoccurring theme with me. I am always saying that the Australian government needs to support our farmers here more because we are phenomenal at growing things. We have an amazing agricultural industry here, whether it's, you know, beef or it's mangoes or it's macadamia. Like, I could go wine, I could go on and on and on. And I feel at the end of the day, cannabis should be no different. We should be at the forefront of amazing plant products coming out of here.
I completely agree. Like, I want our cannabis to be world famous, but I also want the market to demand more Australian cannabis here so it isn't so alluring to export it as the first course of action.
Ooh, double-edged sword. I see where you went with that.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. So we keep hearing, you know, that, there's not enough good quality Australian cannabis, that's why we're importing it. But if we've got the capacity to export it, obviously there's something appealing for growers to export it rather than keep it here. So while I want our cannabis to be world famous, we also need to better support through subsidies, through government incentives to keep some of our cannabis onshore and make it really good too.
That's the key.
So our next story comes from Stratcan in BC, Canada. The Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club receives a $3.2 million fine from the BC government. So the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club is an unlicensed medical cannabis dispensary operating since the 1990s. They have been issued a $3.2 million fine from the province of British Columbia, even though they are one of the oldest and longest continually operating cannabis dispensaries / compassion clubs in Canada. Now, this is heartbreaking because basically they were found with $1.6 million worth of cannabis, so the fine is double what the cannabis is worth. Victoria's Compassion Club does not operate within the legal framework, but without these organisations, Canada wouldn't have the legalisation it has, wouldn't have the culture. So I really wish the BC government from day one, from before federal legalisation, worked with these organisations to see how they could still exist, rather than just letting them exist for the last 6 years in this pseudo area of illegality after they've been so important. It's just devastating to see. Yes, these organisations are not in line with federal legalisation, but I don't think Canada would have the culture they do without them.
I completely agree with that. I've actually gotten stuff from these guys, right? From when I was in Victoria. Beautiful people, right? And I'm with you. It does see, because when Canada legalized, British Columbia was one of the few provinces that kind of embraced their green market and let some of those growers in. And so it was weird to read this story with a club that's been around for so long, that is definitely an advocate for, you know, again, equal access and helping people where they can. It does seem really weird to me that the BC government went in and then just like didn't warn them per se, like with a little slap on the wrist. Like, they fined them. They were like, nope, you can't do that. Fine.
Yeah, yeah. There's a very dystopian integrity unit or community safety standards unit or something like that in BC that are going around and shutting down illegal dispensaries. Now, if they're popping up and they're scattered, that's all good. But these guys are the OGs. They're so important, and it's really sad to see.
Exactly. I feel the same way. Like I said, they've been around forever. Forever.
Well, our last news and current affairs story from Forbes on July 31st is that the Philippines are trying again to pass a bill on medicinal cannabis use. So the Philippines is trying again to pass a bill through the House for cannabis to be used for medicinal purposes after many past failed attempts. The House of Representatives have approved the measure. So I'm stoked on this because the Philippines is a 96% Catholic country that is incredibly conservative at times, politically conservative, socially conservative, and this is a huge step. If they're looking at cannabis as something that might help people, everywhere that legalizes helps the rest of us. Anywhere that legalizes in Asia helps the rest of us. So this is really exciting. It's not there yet. It's a long way off. And, you know, we've seen Thailand do its weird roller coaster and topsy-turvy things. But this is great news that it's at least past one stage of government.
Yeah, I'm super excited for this. I mean, I'm the same with you, right? Like it's that domino effect. And again, with the Philippines, like exactly what you're saying, they're kind of a conservative country. And so to get this passed through that first hurdle, this is big news. And I think if they get it across the line, we're going to start seeing the trickle effect. And there's going to be more little Asian countries that are going to be like, you know what? It's not the end of the world to get medical access.
That is news and current affairs for this edition of the Catch-Up. We're now going to move over to introduce and welcome our wonderful guest. We have Eric Chan here from the Cannabis Warehouse. Eric, it's so lovely to have you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. So excited to be a part of this and awesome to see you guys do it live. Hearing you over the airwaves is so different from viewing it in person, right?
Well, this is our first live one, so we hope we're doing all right.
Okay, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great. Thank you for having me on.
Well, we greatly appreciate you coming out and joining us today. So talk to us about your Compassionate Access Program, because I'm super excited to hear about it.
Look, I first off want to say a big thank you, because the reason why I reached out and wanted to come on the show anyways, because I heard you giving an update on one of your update shows about the program. And it was born from actually being on Reddit, where a patient was asking, is there anywhere I can go to for some help regarding funding my cannabis medicine, because it's just something that I can't afford right now. And I think essentially that is the crux of why we're doing what we're doing with AMCA, the Australian Medicinal Cannabis Association. And for those of you who are not familiar with AMCA, that was started by Lucy Haslam, who is one of the biggest reasons why we have legalized cannabis framework here in Australia. So the background to it was that AMCA and Lucy and the team have been looking for a centralized compassionate access scheme for a very long time. And a lot of brands have their own compassionate access scheme, as many patients are aware. But you can probably understand, probably being patients yourselves, that if your treatment contains many different products from different brands and product producers, in order to get compassionate access from them all, you would have to go and speak to each of them, make your case to each of them, get varying results where one might be one bottle free or only 10% off, and it doesn't help your overall financial hardship picture. So the AMCAR team wanted to create a centralized compassionate access where a patient could come, get reviewed that they are suitable for financial hardship support based on their clinical picture and their financial situation, and have their entire medication and clinical picture supported by one single program. Unfortunately, they've been trying to do this for the last couple of years, and they have not had any success. Part of it was that they believed it needed to be funded by the government. So they made many submissions for funding to get this program off the ground. And it was at UIC, United in Compassion Conference last year, where they announced to the crowd, of which I was an audience member, that the Health Minister's office, especially with the changeover of the minister from, I think, Greg Hunt to, I can't remember who the new one is, that they have rejected that proposal and will not be reviewing it for another 2 years at least. So sitting there in the audience as a distributor who handles a lot of the compassionate access schemes for the different product producers and brands, I thought to myself, why do we need the government to do this? Why can we, where there's so many minds in this room, so many people who are doing things, beautiful things for cannabis, why can we not be the ones to drive what we're doing here? create this centralized compassionate access scheme. So myself and my team at Cannabis Warehouse went back into the room, had a thinking over about a 3-week period. We were able to come up with the infrastructure and the process of creating a centralized compassionate access scheme, which keeps it in control and reviewed independently by AMCA rather than being by the brands themselves. The brands are donating the medicine to the program, and then the pharmacies and the distributors that are going to be participating will be the ones supporting each part of the supply chain. So there's this independence but collaborativeness in making this happen. And so we started a pilot program over a 6-month period from basically around the end of November, start of December last year to about end of July. And since then, in the pilot program, we were able to support over 80 patients and get all the processes working, all the processes in place. We built all the infrastructure ourselves, and every person who's in this particular program that's contributing, from the brands all the way to the pharmacies and the doctors, have done so off their own accord, own resources, own money. And we've been able to launch this program into now what we've been calling phase 1, and hopefully reach that goal of supporting 1,000 in-need patients by this time next year. So it's just been really exciting, and like I said at the beginning when I gave you my gratitude, hearing this outside of the industry, the core industry itself, people talking about it on a show like yours, just really gave that stamp of it's really going somewhere and it's going to help people and it's really going to get out there. So I'm just really blessed to be able to speak about it today.
Yeah, like I got to tell you, I think it's phenomenal just listening to the story about how basically you guys just took the initiative upon yourself. Once you heard the news, you're like, well, if the government's not even going to look at it for the next 2 years, why sit here with our hands tied? Why not grab the bull by the horn, so to speak, and run with it? And so hats off to you guys for running and helping those 80 patients through the trial. And now, new goal with 1,000. That's impressive.
Yeah, and I want everyone to know that the industry, we've had a lot of ups and downs, and we have our own struggles within the industry. But the people who make up this industry, the vast majority, like yourselves, love cannabis, love people, love patients, and don't see medicinal cannabis in the same way as, say, big pharma and all that. We really want to keep it in the hands of the people. And as I was sharing before to some of the people that I met here today, we really have an opportunity as Australia to do something really special, to etch our names in history with what we can do with a medical framework. And I think something like a centralized compassionate access scheme, where it can be independently monitored, work well, be collaborative amongst all the parties, really shows that to everyone, including the government and the powers that be, that this can be done properly and it doesn't need to be abused. It does not need to fall into the same sort of stereotypes that are holding this industry back. It can be integrated and done together really well.
Are you able to talk about the specifics at all? Because I understand there are kind of tiers of support. For some people it's product, for some people it's discount, for some people it's free postage. So what's available to the patients?
Yeah, so what's available to the patients is that there is either two free tiers in regards to the medicine. Tier 1 is for the hardest hit patients, hardest clinical pictures, hardest financial hardship. They get everything for free. Doesn't matter how many products are being selected for them, they get a promise of support, and this goes to all the patients in the program, 6 months worth of care where they'll get reviewed again. And that was only because of the pilot aspect, where we didn't know whether companies would donate that much. Since then, as some of you may have heard, many companies have donated, including Tasmanian Botanics, who've donated $1 million worth of product. So the system is going to have longevity, but they'll have the free tier. The second tier is where the patient is willing to chip in just a little, $10 per item, in order to cover just a little bit of the cost when it comes to postage from the pharmacy if they require that, or some of the dispensing and patient support in the moment in the pharmacy, because they are the front-facing individuals and we believe that they need some of the support. The third tier are for the patients where the doctor who submitted their case believes that yes, they do need financial support, but they do have the means to give a little bit back to the ecosystem. And what it is that they are paying a flat $40 per unit, regardless of what that unit costs normally at retail, just $40 per unit, and that allows them to be a part of the program based on what the doctor has, evaluated on their financial position.
So how do patients, because you just said the doctor would apply, so is this a conversation that a patient would need to have with their doctor, and then their doctor would apply to the program?
Absolutely. So we had to think, and again, I really want to stress because it's always this thing where you start something new and people want the most perfect, optimal version of it. But as we all know, as someone even building like podcasts, there's all these behind the scene things that need to come together for even something very simple on the surface level to happen. But we determined that it'd be really good for the program if the independence of submissions is maintained in the patient's doctor's hands, because they know their clinical picture really well. They are able to submit the patients who have already been confirmed to get a lot of medical value out of cannabis rather than simply just trialing it, because again, this is a limited, precious resource. It's only recently did we get the wonderful news that it's going to have this longevity because companies are coming to the table. But in the context of the beginning, it's going to be in the doctor's hands where they submit the clinical picture, they submit the financial hardship, and they make the suggestion of the tier, which would be born from the conversation they have with the patient anyway, right? So it is collaborative there, but the central starting point is with the doctor.
Very cool. So you mentioned obviously Tasmanian Botanics. Dan Howard is a friend of this show and both of our shows, so shout out to them. What other organisations are involved in this?
Yeah, so I really want to give some very special shout outs to Dispense Direct firstly as the pharmacy. It was only while I was going through the brainstorming phase, having a coffee with Serena up in Brisbane about potentially doing this, that she straight away offered to support 100 spots immediately. And because they do direct to door, that infrastructure worked really well for the pilot program. The other company that I really wanted to give a shout out to is Humacology. They came in and they actually came in go for the pilot program for your first 6 months of trialing. Don't even worry about the number donated. If there are patients who need it, just know that we have a commitment to supply it. And so that was just a really amazing level of initial support that has just allowed us to have the confidence and the drive to really make something of it. And so I really got to give kudos to those two companies. But immediately after that, companies like Mother Plants, like Medbox, like Aura Therapeutics, and what they were before, and Doka, and all those were very much the contributors at the early stage that are worthwhile, giving some sort of gratitude to, because they just jumped in straight away and said, no issues, my friends, just do it. It's a wonderful program. So yeah, big thank you to them.
I love that. I love hearing that you had this idea and then all these companies were like, yep, it's awesome. We support it. Don't worry about numbers or this or that. Take the product, help the patients.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And like I said, recently there's been a lot of negative spotlight on the industry, right? And I think like all things, there are going to be bad eggs or bad faith actors and maybe just misconceptions as well, right? It's hard to start a new industry. It really is. But I can say confidently that this industry is made up of people who really do care. And this is shown by some of these actions that people have taken. So yeah, really thankful to them.
It's an impressive program, and even in the audience here, there were some wide eyes and wows just as you were discussing it. So it's very exciting for the patients, and we do really appreciate you coming here to talk about it today so more people can know about it. I guess while we still have you, as we head to the tail end of our time with you, is there anything more you wanted to share about the program? And then if not, maybe tell us a little bit about Cannabis Warehouse.
Yeah, so I think the last thing I would say, if you are a patient in need of this program, you can definitely reach out to AMCA, the Australian Medicinal Cannabis Association. I think their website is ausmca.org to get more information, but also speak to your doctor, because if you speak to your doctor and you share with them either this podcast or the webinar that's on the AMCA website that explains the entire program in full, especially how it relates to pharmacies and doctors themselves, then they need to just contact us at Cannabis Warehouse, cannabiswarehouse.com.au, and we have our phone number there and we can help explain and share anything. That's the best way for you to get on the program, because again, we do want to keep it in control of the doctors, so it needs to have that sort of process in it to make sure that everything is above board and everything is independently verified, because our ultimate aim is that we do present a robust program back to the government, get funding and expand it even further. Because imagine having a nurse's phone line, imagine having a support place, like actual brick and mortar support place, like something like that we could do. So that's what I would share remaining regarding the program. In terms of Cannabis Warehouse, look, to be honest with you, we are just a couple of boys from Melbourne who love cannabis, who decided to get into it. We have medical health backgrounds. I was in medical research before. My CEO who brought us all together was a physio and did emergency healthcare at music festivals, right, to stop ambulance call-outs and all that. Like we love this space. We love this alternative medicine space. And we started Cannabis Warehouse because, like I said, we believe that there is this real opportunity for us as Australians. And how often do you get the opportunity to enter into an industry and play at the top straight away and lead it, even though you've been in it for a couple of years, right? So we decided to get into distribution because we thought at that time, when we started 3 years ago, is where we could have the most impact. But in the end, like what you do, the reason why you do what you do, it is about growing cannabis properly, getting it in the hands of the people, finding a good synergy between medical and adult use. And that has been our ethos. We supply our medication as what we do practically to pharmacies, but what we do at our core is provide the education to the doctors, to the healthcare professionals, to the regulators, so that they can break that stigma, break that stereotype, and we can find that beautiful day where we are well known in this world for having the best medical framework, but also some of the best cannabis and adult use policies. That's what we're looking to aim for.
I love your dream, sir. I love your dream. Eric, thank you so much for coming out. It was wonderful talking to you. Yeah.
Yeah, let's hear it for Eric.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having me on.
And here's a little Give Toke rolling tray for your troubles.
Yes, thank you. And make sure you grab one of
awesome.
my wonderful, huge magnets.
Thank you for having me on, guys.
Yeah,
Always a
thank
pleasure.
you.
Thanks so much. All right, we are going to switch over to a little bit of audience participation now, so I hope you guys are ready. We have a bit of a quiz for you guys. There are 5 questions. There are 5 rolling trays up for grabs for any correct answers, so please listen carefully for Christina's amazing quiz.
Here we go. Question number 1. Both Christina and Paul have their own podcasts. Can you name them?
Tick, 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 tick.
Anybody
tick,
anybody
tick,
in the
tick,
audience?
tick,
Hand
tick,
up,
tick,
hand
tick,
up.
tick,
Anybody?
tick.
Anybody? Oh, come on. It's not that tricky. Somebody yell it out. Yell it out.
Give Toke and AusCannaReviews.
Oh, there we go. That's our first prize. Come on down and get your rolling tray. That is correct. The correct answer is Give Toke Cannabis Conversations and the AusCanna podcast. That was a real
Excellent.
tricky one that you gave them there,
well,
Christina.
look, I had to
that
start-
was tough.
I had to start easy. All right, ready? Question number 2. Terpenes are an important part of understanding the possible effects of a flower. Can you name 3?
Tick, 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 tick.
I feel like I need the Jeopardy.
Yeah.
Do-do-do-do.
Terpinolene, limonene, ocimene.
There we go. Terpinolene, limonene, and ocimene. Come on down.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy. All right. Beautiful. Terpene talk. Always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Number 3.
Number 3. What was the name of the program that our guest, Eric Chan, just spoke about?
Ooh, were people listening?
Were you listening?
Ooh, it's a tough one.
Say it louder.
It is the Compass Special Access Program. Come and get your rolling tray.
Woohoo!
2 to go.
All right. Question number 4. During the news segment, we spoke about 6 different stories.
Name all 6.
No. Can you name 2?
Tick, 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 tick.
Do-do-do-do-do.
What were there 2
What were
stories
2
about?
stories that we spoke about?
I'm going to win my own rolling tray if you guys don't answer this.
Do-do. Yes.
There's a teenager.
Yes?
Yes.
Teenager selling homemade THC gummies.
Boom, there's one. Eric,
Allegedly.
thank you.
Allegedly.
And then there's a Victorian club being fined double the amounts of 3.2.
You got it.
Oh,
you got
you
it.
got
You get another
Yeah.
rolling tray. Woo! All right, this is going great. We've got number 5. 5 and
Number
5.
5. This one's a little tricky.
The audience is a lot better at the quiz than my guests usually are. So,
Are they?
Yep.
Look, I'll tell you right now, I bombed my quiz. The audience is doing much, much better. Here's our last question. Let's try that again. Last question. There are some amazing medicinal cannabis patient advocates here in Australia. that are out on the front lines every day fighting the good fight. Can you name one? The beautiful lady over here, yell it out.
Lisa from Astrid.
Lisa Newen from Astrid. Yay! And another rolling tray.
Share my tray now.
I love it. I love it.
Wow, we got the audience did not have the nerves that we did, so that was fantastic. Thank you for that amazing quiz, Christina. We've given out some rolling trays. What an absolute pleasure that was.
I gotta tell you, I think the audience liked it. Did you guys like the quiz? Yes, they did. Woohoo! All right. So now moving on to one of my favorite segments. It's the Hot Tokes. Paul, do you have something that you would like to get off your chest this month?
I'm feeling pretty good this month. There's nothing that I'm feeling too spicy about. I do know that everyone in the industry's been feeling a little bit overwhelmed by all this TGA stuff right now. So my hot toke is just everyone take care of yourselves. So not very spicy, just very loving. Nothing to rant about this month. How about you? Have you got any hot tokes for us?
I hate you because mine's all like bubbles and fluff and rainbows and butterflies.
I should have been angry about
you
something.
You should have been
shouldn't I?
angry. We're
Yeah.
supposed to balance ourselves here.
My wife didn't come to our live podcast.
That's it. How dare she not support you? I can't believe it. So my hot toke this month is basically, good times and good vibes and bringing the sunshine down to Melbourne. I guess they're towards the end of my first season of my podcast. If you listen to it, you kind of heard me lose my voice. And it took longer than I thought to get it back. And then I realized I had kind of taken a month off from doing my podcast. And how do I explain that? I was like, well, forget it. It's season 2.
Yeah.
So here we are at
Ta-da.
season 2, right? And I guess I lost a little bit of mojo. I lost a little bit of momentum, and I was kind of mopey. I'm going to own it. I was a little mopey, but coming down to Melbourne and, let's get real, Paul. This is our 7th show, and this is our first time to meet. And
First time in person.
In person.
So, yeah, we're internet friends that became real friends.
Yeah, and
just
it's
like when I was a teenager on MySpace back in the day. Anyone else? You just chat up a girl online and then you're like, hey, then you awkwardly meet at Flinders Street Station. It's a delight. You're that girl, Christina. Lucky you.
Yay. Well, good thing I stopped by and took a picture outside Flinders Station so I can remember it.
I was one of those emos with the sweeping fringe and the super tight jeans. So that, yeah.
We could have worked
Lucky
out.
girls.
We could have worked out. I went through a whole stage where I wore Doc Martens and flannel, right? We could have worked out.
Right on, right. Well, actually, as you mentioned that, something I do want to celebrate is this is actually the 50th episode of, Give Toke for me. There's been 43 interview shows and 7 catch-ups, so I'm feeling pretty good about 50. 50 is the new 40, as they say. So.
It is. Hats off to 50.
I don't know what that has to do with podcasting, but there's my
Shameless.
shameless self-plug.
Yeah, I like it, though. I'm going to let you get away with it.
All right. Well, as I'm losing my tongue, we'll move to our final segment, which is What's Up? What can we expect from AusCannaReviews this month, Christina?
Well, as I said to you, I just launched that 2nd season of the podcast. So I spoke with Alice Davey. And then my most recent episode is with Jessica from the Green Room Hydro. She's fabulous. She tells a great story about coconuts.
I have to tune in then. You're just going to leave it on
That's
that
all
one?
I'm just going to leave it on that. Coconuts. But yeah, no, she's awesome. I love her. And then I guess the next review that's coming out would be lemon cream cake.
Sounds delicious. Well, as always, check out AusCannaReviews.substack.com to hear those amazing reviews. Hear them, read them, and also check out the AusCanna podcast, which is an absolute delight. For me this month, I'm going to take a little break. I usually take a break between seasons, but I had some really good episodes to push out for my season 4. So first few are out. Dr. Riley Kirk is absolutely the best guest I've ever had on the show. She is just such an amazing resource for this space. She is super smart, super approachable, super knowledgeable. So if anyone's going to go and listen to an episode of my podcast, it would be that one. But other than that, going to take a little break. People keep on jumping on givetoke.com.au and buying my stuff. Use the code CATCHUP for $10 off your purchase. That's CATCHUP for $10 off your purchase.
Guys, I just got to say it was absolutely fabulous to do our 7th show here live on location at Mull Cafe. I got to shout outs to those guys. Shout outs to Relief for having us here. Ruby. Shout out to Eric for coming on the show and talking about the program. And most importantly, thank you so much for actually like guests showing up, and we weren't talking out into space.
Thank
There
you.
were people
Thank
that
you.
showed up and actually supported us. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here, guys. We do really, really appreciate it. So I'm Paul.
And I'm Christina.
Thanks for coming.